Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Michaela Weber, the VP of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships at BigCommerce. And our topic today's focus is the opportunity for automotive e-commerce with BigCommerce. Michaela, hi, how you doing?
Hey, Graham. Thanks for having me.
Thanks you for spending the time this afternoon and joining our podcast. So, a few weeks ago, there was the BigCommerce Summit, probably one of the biggest partnership summits I've ever been to. Are you guys coming down off the high of all that now? You had lots of conversations?
It was great. Yeah, we had 600 people here in London, so quite a lot of energy coming out of that, and just working through all the follow-ups. But it was a really great event. Great to connect with our partners and talk a little bit about also where we're going as an e-commerce platform in 2024 and beyond.
Awesome. Yeah, I thank you for the invite. It was super interesting. I learned a heck of a lot that day. I think probably it'd be worth touching on as well how you guys have really positioned yourself as the enterprise solution provider in the platform industry. And we'll no doubt talk a bit about that with some of the clients that we're working with you on the BigCommerce platform, but also what you see in terms of the horizons and the future and some of the future developments there as well. So first off, for our listeners, it'd be great to understand a bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to your current position at BigCommerce.
Sure. So I started off in more of a traditional technology or financial services role. So I was at JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, living in Hong Kong, spent some time in Germany, then in London, and then moved into kind of e-commerce and payments. It's such an interesting area. I was really excited by the opportunity to do more work there. So I've been at BigCommerce since earlier this year, but been working with BigCommerce since 2019 as a partner. So it's a great opportunity to now work with so many of the team that I worked with formerly as a partner, now as colleagues.
Fantastic. And was that previously purely in the financial sector in terms of transactions, or did you see kind of some of the wider stuff that BigCommerce were doing?
Yeah, so I worked, when I worked with BigCommerce previously, I was working in online payments. So supporting merchants who were using that really critical step of e-commerce, which is ensuring that you have a clear, frictionless payment experience to ultimately convert some of the visits to your website into sales. So got to see firsthand what a difference it made to work with the BigCommerce platform in terms of conversion and merchant outcomes, which of course turns into revenue. So really important for anyone running an e-commerce site to be very focused on conversion rates and ultimately being able to convert some of those visits into revenue for your business.
Okay, awesome. Are you enjoying your new role in the strategic partnerships?
Yeah, it's been great. I've been traveling quite a lot to Europe. So we have a very large merchant and partner network across Europe. I was in Saudi Arabia a few weeks ago in Riyadh, which was new. That was my first time ever in Saudi Arabia. But that's a market that's growing in leaps and bounds in terms of digitization and e-commerce. And our team is growing. We're hiring some new roles. So it's been a really positive start.
Fantastic. And for those of people who are listening today, this might be their first introduction to BigCommerce. Can you just give us an overview of what BigCommerce is, what your vision is? We touched on it at the start of the kind of conversation around kind of the enterprise component, but yeah, where does BigCommerce sit in terms of the portfolio of these the software providers?
Yeah, so we're an e-commerce platform. So we're essentially powering your online shopping website. So we're SaaS based. So we are software as a service, which means we're API forward with the latest in composable and headless technology. So one of the opportunities we have is we work with merchants and want to make sure that they can choose the partners they want to work with. So you can build a whole tech stack with BigCommerce, working with different technology partners, or use our out of the box functionality. So it's a great option for merchants who are kind of, we think of 2 to 5 million of annual turnover starts to be where our focus area is. And the bulk of our business is between 10 million of annual turnover or GMV, like online sales, and 100 million. We definitely have some merchants that are bigger than that, but especially in Europe, 10 to 100 is a focus area for us. That's where working with us can make a real difference in terms of conversion rates for merchants, utilizing some of our AI based technologies, and really helping merchants take their business to the next level if they want to expand into a new market, launch a new product line. Maybe you're a B2B company that wants to sell B2C, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Those are all really great use cases to start to work with BigCommerce.
And you've seen over the past, again, few months, 12 months or so, you've been acquiring these sellers, and we've seen in the, in kind of the LinkedIn and some of the social media that you've been winning brands and retailers. So I know there's people like Ted Baker that you power, and there's like the Tottenham Hotspurs direct to consumer sites that you guys are powering. Why are these guys choosing you over other service providers essentially?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think we're really in the middle between um, some of the commerce platforms that serve more small businesses. So in Europe, especially, could be like a Shopify that's serving kind of small to medium businesses. If you were going to start a business selling socks in a box on a monthly basis, like those platforms are really great for you to kind of get started with. And but we're also not as complex and expensive as some of the really uh, large platforms like a Magento or a Commerce Tools that may require quite a lot of agency hours of customization. So we can be easy to implement. We give you that flexibility to run the store how you want to. And there's also a total cost of ownership advantage to working with us because we include hosting in our costs. And that's something that in this current macro environment, which is a bit more challenging for a lot of our merchants, it's a really good value proposition when combined with some of our technology features. So yeah, we're winning a lot of great merchants, great logos in that kind of 10 to 100 million of online sales space.
Fantastic. And obviously, our listener base is all automotive focused. So some might be dealers, some might be brands, some might be OEMs, some might be SMBs or medium sized businesses that are currently retailing around that kind of that area. It'd be good to understand why BigCommerce is seeing the growth in kind of the automotive sector and why you see it important. I saw some recent releases at the first quarter of this year that it was one of your biggest successes in terms of growth rate. I think nearly double-digit growth. So congratulations on that. But what is it about the automotive industry that you find exciting, and why BigCommerce is kind of getting more involved at the moment?
Yeah, so automotive is an interesting that I think is really been growing quite a lot in terms of digitization, awareness now of customer experience. You see a lot of selling through marketplaces. I know working with you, that's a big area of opportunity in business for AutoFixa. So it's the marketplace selling. It's also a lot of brands who want to go direct to consumer. So if you traditionally are only selling on B2B, you're selling through a AutoZone or a Halfords, maybe you don't have the full level of customer data, you don't have the best margins, and there's really an opportunity to sell directly to your consumer to have that increased level of data in control of their experience. And I think the tools have gotten more sophisticated. I mean, it's quite difficult. So I have as you know, Graham, a very temperamental old Land Rover. So I'm no stranger to online car part purchasing or YouTube videos trying to self-diagnose the various things that can go wrong with a 22-year-old Land Rover. But I've seen, myself how it can be really easy if you have, year, make, model search capabilities on a site. You're able to enter your registration number and kick back, specific parts that are going to be applicable to you. And so as a consumer, I think that functionality has really stepped up. And that's why we see a lot of increased business with automotive, where they're looking to bring their online experience and that enhanced customer experience to the next level.
100% agree. And if I look at how we see the automotive sector at the moment, obviously one of the biggest channels is eBay as a kind of, in terms of a marketplace solution. They've obviously got a huge amount of audience. They're well known. The kind of the customer profile is very much kind of, a DIYer or a fit it for me. They don't mind actually doing a little bit of extra work to either get the right product or get the right products at the right price. And then again, in terms of my kind of visibility of what's happened over the last 10, 15 years, brands want to get a lot closer to their customers. They want to know where they're
Yeah.
shopping, what they're buying, how often they're buying it. And not only that, they want to make sure that their proposition's right. Obviously, they invest a phenomenal amount of money in their kind of their marketing and their brand visibility. And if that's not reflected right on marketplaces, then it obviously has an impact. Sales on those channels, they obviously want to then replicate that on their D2C models. And that's where someone like you essentially comes into play. And I know we've worked on a few OEM clients, BMW and Mini being one of them, where essentially we utilize you as a strategic partner to deliver the best in class SaaS level solution, essentially. We definitely see that with large retailers, smaller retailers, and dealerships, how we can kind of really kind of commercialize that pitch in a much more succinct way. So in terms of kind of the specific opportunities and trends within automotive, is there anything that's caught your attention or you see that's being influenced at the moment?
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that has really changed is this openness to making large purchases online. So we've published some automotive case studies, and we see that previously where it was maybe unfathomable to buy a car online, you've seen the growth of consumers who are actually more open to doing DTC transactions or putting a deposit down, on a website versus going to a dealership. And I think that's driven a lot of, to your point, focus from the automakers on getting to know these customers. It's also changed a little bit some of the dealer model and dealer behavior, right? As that has disintermediated that traditional flow of Ford or Mini, selling to a dealership that's then selling on to a consumer. So I think that's been super interesting. But the real shift we have seen is this notion of more investment in going direct to consumer and having a separate consumer brand, even if you are selling through marketplaces or some of these large auto parts dealers. Here at BigCommerce, we actually work with 2,600 companies that are affiliated with automotive, whether it's filters or floor mats. You mentioned BMW and Mini. We work with some sports bike companies, everything from gear to help you ride your motorcycle up to OEM. And everyone wants that margin boost from selling directly to a consumer. And it's loyalty too, because if you buy a filter from me, I don't know how often you change a car filter, but anyway, I know you bought a filter. You bought a filter for your Land Rover Discovery. I know in 24 months, I can send you a push email and say, Graham, you bought a filter from me. Like, it's about time to change your filter. Or if I know what car you own, I can, when you're trying to buy a headlight replacement, actually give you an offer on replacing both bulbs plus a deal on brake lights and then push you a message about how statistically your brake light will fail within 90 days of your headlight failing or something, right? So I have more control over the consumer journey. I can personalize your journey. I can bundle products with you, so achieving a higher basket. And I have that more personal connection where I can encourage you to come back to my site, make repeat purchases, understand more about you and your needs as it relates to automotive. And we see brands really needing to invest in that because it's such a competitive retail environment where anyone can type into Google, headlight lamp Land Rover Discovery and buy from Amazon or any other place. I want to make sure that I have that repeat customer experience.
That's really interesting because whilst they might come through in terms of Google or through a separate search engine, if you capture that customer, offer them the right product, then the kind of retention in the automotive sector is huge because people don't tend to swap their cars as often as they would, say, buy a pair of sneakers or buy a T-shirt or another product. With the automotive, the kind of the average that people hold on to their cars is between 10 and 14 years. I know with your Land Rover, you've probably had it, had it that kind of.
It's going on. Well, it hasn't been with us 23 years, but it will be celebrating its 23rd year from rolling off the factory line. Yeah, next year.
Exactly, and there'll be a persona of client that keep their car 1 to 3 years and then get a lease and get something else, and then there'll be those clients that basically buy second hand and then are kind of fixed for 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And you can then, as you say, you can estimate when they'll need a service, when they'll need their oil changing, when they have their
Yep.
MOTs. You can do the push notifications. I think the other thing as well is, what you're talking about is convenience and visibility. The kind of the historical going into a garage, they might not have visibility of when they get quoted a price for brake discs and pads or a full service. Is that a competitive price? Is that the right price? Is there ways that I can spread that kind of pricing over a longer period, because it might be a distressed purchase and I didn't appreciate that I was going to get that? With the online version of those kind of solutions, you can offer those buy now pay later. You can
Yep.
look at
Absolutely.
tiering of products, if it being OEM or aftermarket. So you're giving the consumer choice essentially, and that's what BigCommerce is enabling. So in terms of kind of like the market opportunity, as we kind of alluded to at the start, you guys have seen a big shift in terms of what's happening in the automotive industry. What do you think the size of the opportunity looks like, and where are you on in that journey at the moment as well?
Yeah, so I think the US market alone is something like 37 billion for automotive and kind of associated parts. I think it also depends if you think of people as buying cars online. I know there's Kazoo and other kind of DTC car dealers, but certainly the global market is in the trillions. And as we've seen more brands go international, as someone who's dealing in auto parts, you have the opportunity to attract international buyers as well. So even if you're just operating in Europe, depending on circumstances of fulfillment, you may be able to capture consumers from markets that you're not targeting because they like your prices and they're looking for something specific. So I think it really is a huge global opportunity. And we are seeing a lot of activity in the auto parts area. So working on our ability to optimize search. So to have year, make, model searches, registration number searches, really ensuring that customer journey is super easy when there are so many SKUs and there are so many model variants. And as a consumer, it can be really daunting to know, am I an SE or an HSE or a diesel or a whatever, right? I mean, there's actually quite a lot of permutations in terms of products, depending what you're looking for. So we see a lot of growth of that automotive and automotive adjacent parts. Like I mentioned, we work with you guys with some on a filter client, floor mats, OEM parts. There's quite a lot of motorcycle gear and jackets and other kind of retail related environments. So it's or opportunities. So yeah, we see it across the chain. Everything from taking a deposit and making it really easy to sign up and register interest in a new model year and a new model car that may be coming out, to actually buying things that are going to be delivered, that I need today or tomorrow for my car. Everything from a headlight lamp to more sophisticated racks, tow hitches, all those things.
And I think that's, again, going back to your point about the kind of the consumer journey. Even if you bought a car in the dealership or second hand, if there's a way of essentially connecting that and then offering the customers what they want and what is applicable, rather than hit a kind of a one fits all, one catch all website, and then you have to go through a filtration system of trying to find the specific brake pad or find the specific set of car mats that you want to fit. If you can go through a journey where a customer buys a car, and registration is understood straight away, and that dealer says a notification out and says, you didn't buy any brake car mats when you left today.
Yeah.
Here are the car mats for your vehicle, not a generic kind of, this is our website, go and hunt and find the right ones. It's a very, very different consumer journey in that respect. And my understanding is a high propensity to actually acquire that customer and sell something extra onto them.
Yeah, I think Mini is a great example with bike racks, right? If you want a bike rack for your Mini, yes, you can look and try to get some non-mini bike racks, but actually there's some really specific opportunities. So just typing in your model or your registration and being able to see, oh, these are the 2 or 3 bike racks available to me. Do I want one that's on, back mounted, roof mounted, and make those decisions, it's much easier than having to navigate through, the Google shopping catalog of every bike rack known to man, only to realize it's actually not going to be suitable for my car.
Exactly that. So, in terms of automotive brands, they are becoming increasingly interested in D2C. I think it has been relatively latent in terms of how automotive has adopted e-commerce. We've seen huge changes in FMCG, huge changes in fashion, and the automotive industry seems to, possibly because of these barriers to entry with the fitment that we were talking about, and possibly around the kind of the logistics aspect. But why do you see in the market in terms of what's changing now in why automotive brands are getting increasingly interested in D2C e-commerce?
Yeah, I think it's both the marketing department and the finance department. So the finance department likes D2C because the margins are almost always higher. So you're almost always not having to, sell wholesale to a B2B buyer. And so you're giving away upside in that scenario. So you are able to retain more margin when you're selling D2C, which is really keeps your CFO happy, keeps the finance team happy. The second is the marketing team. And we talked a little bit about this of personalization, customer journey, being able to have you, Graham, as a loyal mini driver, have a mini login to our website. We know which model you have. We can track your purchasing behavior. We can push products to you, bundle, promote, invite you to other brand events, right? I mean, let's not forget that a lot of what these car manufacturers are doing is trying to build community around their brands. So my husband gets invited to a lot of like Land Rover Jamboree things, like people driving their Land Rovers in a field, like that builds brand identity and community. And everything that a lot of the auto brands are around is repeat purchasing, loyalty to the brand. It's also going to keep you buying OEM parts, right?
Yep.
So if I have a really positive association with Mini, I'm probably more likely to go to the Mini site and buy an OEM replacement part versus, rolling the dice on something that was is more generic. So I think it makes a big difference to the marketers as well. So it's the finance team and the marketing team that are really pushing these brands to be more D2C. But the challenge is the fulfillment piece, right? It's easier to be B2B. It's easier to ship pallets off than it is to ensure that I receive, two headlight bulbs and a keychain within 3 days of placing my order, and they come to my house in West London. So that is one of the gating factors for some of the brands that are looking to, whether you're selling auto parts or accessories through a marketplace, it is a gating factor to becoming more D2C, is figuring out this fulfillment piece, being able to meet consumer needs on that side.
Great answer there. I think when you were chatting through that response, one thing that flagged for me was we worked with an OEM that enabled click and collect essentially on their website, and they bought a service pack, maybe a few £100, but because they had chosen click and collect and chosen their local dealership to go and collect that from, being a true good salesperson that was at the front door, said, "Whilst you're here, why don't you have a free coffee? We've got a new Vitara on show. If you want to take it for a test drive, you can do." And the kind of the follow through with that was it went from an online journey where they wanted OEM products at a good price. It wasn't necessarily about pricing; it was more about convenience, and it was direct from the OEM. The journey went then into a physical journey into the dealership, and it subsequently ended up them buying a new car. So the untangible, trackable there was that throughput, but it's that kind of that convenience piece that we're offering to those the customers, but also that you have to be in those scenarios to essentially gain those customers back and retain them back into the dealership. Because why else would that person have come into the dealership essentially?
Yeah, and remember, the other thing that brands I think are becoming more aware of is there's so much competition for eyeballs and for time. So I think any interaction that you can have with an end consumer is really valuable, and it's an opportunity for you to make a positive impression in a world in which we're all on Instagram and TikTok, and some of the brands are as well, right? I think it's having that in-person interaction or that moment with a brand really does make an impact in terms of overall whether you become a promoter of the brand and your ultimate loyalty.
So we've touched on essentially how BigCommerce enables that platform. How do then how what suite of tools or what opportunities does BigCommerce's platform have to facilitate an automotive company's desire to have more direct relationship with consumers? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we offer both B2B and B2C. I mean, I guess touching briefly on the B2B side, we have some invoice products. We offer price lists. You can actually run instances where you have the same website essentially, but different experiences for B2B and B2C customers, which is really helpful to be able to run it from one back end. But from the direct to consumer side, we allow you to customize your website based on your buyer persona, so multi storefront, also multi geo. So if you're selling into different markets, or if you may have different brands, so maybe you want I guess if you're Land Rover with the new Defender, you want your Defender to be its own brand and its own website, but then you have some other models or another website under your brand umbrella separately. We allow you to do that. Also very easy to customize, so drag and drop tools, analytics, including AI powered analytics. So helping you with that personalization, with some of the targeting, understanding some of the trends on your website, and also working really closely with merchants on ultimate conversion. And that's where a partner like Barclays comes into play, who we use for payments, is it's really critical to ensure that you have that conversion piece at the end, right? If you are using your website for e-commerce transactions, we know that 60% of customers will actually abandon their checkout process if it takes longer than 2 minutes. So, and I'm like the number one offender here. I abandon baskets all the time. My browser's full of tabbed abandoned baskets. So, if I've gone through the hard work of attracting you to my website, getting you to add the right product that you're looking for to your cart, I also need to make sure that that checkout experience is frictionless and that I ultimately convert that sale. So that's something that we work closely with merchants on and our checkout is optimized for.
So ultimately, you've created the demand, you've got the people there, and then you've got a suite of tools to enable and support the conversion rates and really to highlight what they look like. That makes total sense. So obviously, this podcast is around the future and driving the future of e-commerce in the automotive sector. What do you see as the future for BigCommerce in terms of powering the automotive industry?
Yes, I think we're continuing to innovate as it relates to products that will be helpful for a lot of companies in manufacturing and retail, especially automotive. So continuing to ensure it's optimized user experience, really easy to manage multiple instances of your storefront from the back end, because we know that brands are managing really complex product sets using those sophisticated AI-based search tools. So to ensure that consumers are able to find the products that they're looking for. Um, and getting feedback from our merchants. So one of the things we do is we do work closely with our merchants to understand their pain points, how their business is evolving, and ensuring that we're not only leading the way, but also making sure that we're in touch with the merchants we work with in the automotive industry and hearing what would be beneficial to them to help them grow their business and ultimately when our merchants grow, we're also successful. So our ultimate objectives are definitely aligned.
100%. No, that's brilliant. So, in terms of obviously, you've shared how BigCommerce is powering the automotive platform industry. How do listeners find out more about how BigCommerce can do that, and who do they get in touch with?
Sure. Yeah, you can go to bigcommerce.com, which will bring you to our kind of landing page. So you'll be able to see additional solutions from us. If you also Google BigCommerce Automotive, that'll pop up some case studies that'll take you directly to some of the co-branded work that we've done in terms of case studies. But you can fill out an interest form, or you can also shoot me a note on Michaela.Weber, Weber, at bigcommerce.com. You can find me on LinkedIn and would love to get you connected with the sales teams But we're really excited to be working with yourselves at Autofixa and so many successful automotive merchants and continuing to grow this really critical segment of our business.
Awesome. Michaela, thank you so much for your time today. Hugely appreciate you taking out of your busy schedule. And thank you to all the listeners for listening today. And tune in for our next podcast, which we'll be releasing soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Graham.
Thanks.